Welcome back, Gearheads. This is Steve Moore. I am providing another how-to video here. This one is regarding our BG-Maestro auto tracking camera. It's a pretty cool camera. It's very easy to set up. It's perfect for a classroom type of situation, or maybe like a yoga class or something like that that's online, where you're tracking a single individual in a small to medium-sized room. It's got no moving parts in it, so it's very reliable. And it's a great solution, so let's dive into it and we'll show you how cool this thing really is. So the first step is obviously to log into our camera. We're assuming at this point that you've already got your camera on the network. If you do not, we have some other tutorial videos about how to join our cameras to your network. We also have some articles in our knowledge base if you prefer to read. So we got all kinds of options out there for you. Get that done, then jump right back here and we'll continue. So once we're logged into the camera, this is the first interface that we're going to see. So right now you're just seeing the target wall that I'm set up in front of and my basic camera controls here. The first step to setting up this auto tracking is we have to define our panoramic preset and our platform preset. The panoramic preset is going to be your widest screen shot. That is going to be the default shot of the camera when it's not actively tracking a subject. It's just gonna zoom all the way out to the shot that you set, and it's gonna sit there and it's gonna wait until somebody shows up that it can start tracking. So for our purposes here, we don't really need to set anything up. I'm at full zoom out right now, and this is exactly the shot I want. If I wanted to crop it in a little bit, I could just bring this in a little bit here. Maybe I don't wanna see those lights up top, or I don't wanna see the baseboard, so I just give it a little extra zoom. And I would hit save on my panoramic preset, but I'm actually going to go ahead and zoom back out where I do want it. At this point, I will hit save on panoramic preset. Now what we're going to set is and actually, you know what? Now that we're looking at this, I don't like it. Let's do a little crop. Let's get rid of that ugliness. There we go. Saved. So now we're going to do our platform preset. This is going to be the zoom level that the camera jumps to when it acquires a target and stops tracking. This might vary depending on what you're doing. If it's some kind of a dance or fitness instruction type of thing, you might want a full body shot. If it's a teacher, you might want just upper torso along with the board behind them. It's all personal preference there. But what we're going to do for ours is go ahead and zoom on in and get it set. I'm going to save that as my platform preset. The easiest way to do this is to have a helper with you to go stand in that position so you can frame that subject exactly the way you want them, and that way you know that you're getting an accurate setting. So once you've done that, you go ahead and click save there, and then you are going to go down to your area settings. Once you click here, and actually I left out a step, so before we do that, let's click this view to go back to our panoramic preset. This is where we want to make all of our settings, because if we define our target area from that zoomed in point, we're going to lose all the available tracking area that's outside of that. So we'll make sure we're on our widescreen panoramic shot by hitting view, and we're going to go to area settings. If this isn't checked already, right here where it says enable platform area, go ahead and click enable. And then what we're going to do is just start at the top left, and we're just going to click and drag and draw a square in the area that we want to be our target tracking area. So in our case, it's going to be this whole wall. So I'm going to go ahead and grab this and drag it all the way across. Let go. Now I've highlighted my whole area. And that's it. This thing is now set to auto track. There is another step over here, which is mask area. That doesn't really apply to our situation right now because we don't have anything that's going to confuse the tracking. But if you had maybe a TV or a couple of windows or a doorway where somebody might walk past, what you want to do is go ahead and enable these masks, and you're just going to draw a box over that thing that you want ignored, and the camera is going to rule that out as a potential tracking target. You'll know you need to do this if when you go to start auto tracking, the camera just keeps going off to a point where nobody's there. And moving things like pictures on a TV, again, windows, some pictures, statues, things like that. If you've got anything like that in the target area, they're going to confuse it a little bit, so that masking comes in pretty handy for that. What you want to avoid in this setup process is over-masking things, because then there's not much area left for the actual tracking. So whenever possible, set this up in a clean, kind of basic area, if you've got something there that confuses it and you have the ability to move it out of the way, that's always a better option than using the mask. If you don't have that option, then go ahead and use that mask function. So I'm going to disable this because I don't need it for my purposes. I'm going to double check that my platform area is all set, and I can go ahead and close this out. The next step is fine tuning. If I wanted to right now, I could click start and this thing will start tracking. And with this setup that I have right here with this kind of basic wall, I know it's going to work perfectly. If we've got a little more challenging situation or we're doing a little more fast movement and stuff, we have a few tweaks that we can set for that as well under advanced settings. Once I jump in here, under my basic settings, my first option is target lost action. So when it's tracking somebody, if it gets confused and loses the target, you can tell it what you want it to do. It can either jump back to the panoramic preset, which is the one I'd recommend you use, or you can keep it on that close-up preset and it'll just hold its position until it reacquires a target. The problem with that option is that if it lost tracking and your subject moved all the way to the other side, they're going to be out of frame and the camera's just going to be sitting there recording a blank wall. That's why we recommend that you do the panoramic preset. Our track mode next is 3 different options. We've got real-time tracking mode, and that basically means wherever you move, the camera follows. Movie mode, it does kind of a frame at a time. So rather than a continuous smooth motion, as soon as you get towards the edge of the frame, it moves over an entire frame and then holds position until you move to the next frame, and then it'll do another jump. It's a little bit jarring, but depending on your circumstance, that might be the way to go for you. Our third option is going to be area tracking mode. This mode is one that's going to be a little more useful for something like fitness instruction, maybe yoga or dance or something like that. What it's going to do is it's going to hold position in the target area, and as you move around, the camera will hold position until you approach the edge of the frame. Then it will begin smoothly tracking you in the manner that the real-time tracking works in. The reason this is useful is, let's say you're moving around a lot, you don't want that camera swaying around back and forth, making your viewers feel a little seasick. It's a great choice for that. So if you're doing something with a lot of motion and you don't want it just constantly bouncing a few feet back and forth, that's the mode for you. But for most people's purposes, the real-time tracking mode is what you're going to be sticking with. Right here we have our tracking sensitivity. This helps you fine-tune how sensitive it is to movement. So the more sensitive you have it set, the more small movements the camera is going to want to move and track. So if you notice that it's doing a little too much movement and you wish it was a little more still, you can kind of back that sensitivity down, fine tune it, and get it to be a little bit more of a stable shot that's a little more aesthetically pleasing. The tracking speed, that is pretty self-explanatory. Basically, it's how fast it moves to track your target. This isn't something that's going to track you while you're sprinting back and forth by any means, but everything below a brisk walk, it should be able to keep up with no problem. But it's definitely not designed for sports. You're not going to go out and record a basketball game or a volleyball match with this thing. It's just for a single person indoors, not moving around too quick, lectures, presentations, that sort of thing. So always keep that in mind. There's no magic bullet here for auto tracking baseball games yet, but we're working on that. We'll let you know when we figure it out. Next option we have here is target lost time in seconds. So by default it's 3. Basically this is the amount of time from the point at which it loses the tracking subject, how much time it takes for the camera to return to your panoramic position. So I usually leave it set about 3. That's a pretty good number. It's pretty fast at acquiring a target, so that way if it does have a momentary loss, it's not going to zoom out and jump back in for no reason. It gives the camera a chance to catch itself and continue moving. These other 2 options, the inner program and the student IP, these are for a more advanced type of setup that actually we are not working on right now, but it involves a camera server, multiple camera angles, and it's set up to be able to allow instructors and students to kind of engage with each other and have the cameras auto switch depending on who's currently speaking. It's a pretty complicated setup. It's not something we're currently offering, so that can kind of be disregarded there. The action code and the server are all a part of that setup, so don't worry about these settings, you're not going to need them. So pretty much just stick to this basic settings tab and you'll be good. Go ahead and click save when you're done, and then we can close this. On our configuration tab here, we've got a couple of settings I want to point out. If you are going to be importing audio into the jack on the back of the camera, make sure you enable this. By default, it comes off. Also, if you are using the SDI out on the back, you need to make sure to enable the video out right here because by default, it's turned off. We've got some encode settings, so if you're pulling in the video stream, you can mess with the quality, things like that. Video parameters gives you full control over all the exposure settings, the color settings, all that good stuff, so you can tweak away to your heart's delight until you get the picture you want, because this kind of beauty does not come easy. You got to do some dialing. But beyond that, these are all a little more advanced settings that we're not going to cover in this video. This is just kind of down and dirty. How do we get this thing set up? How do we get it running? So with that in mind, we're going to jump back to our preview tab here. We're going to click start. And we are going to jump to our beautiful spokes model, Joel, who's going to demonstrate the tracking performance of this camera. Take it away, Joel. So there you have it. I hope you guys found this video helpful. Hopefully it gets you up and running without too much trouble, and you can enjoy using your camera pretty quickly. When you get down to it, this setup is really easy. You can get it done in about 10 minutes. Pretty painless, and then it's really set and forget. Once you get it dialed in, up and running, just put it up, leave it alone, let it do its thing, and you do your thing and the camera will track you. So as always, if you do need help with this setup, we're always available in tech support to help you out. We love hearing from you, so don't be shy. Be sure to check out our YouTube channel for some other helpful videos for setting up all our various components and cameras and pieces of gear that we sell. We love being able to help you guys out. So until next time, stay safe out there and buy some cameras.